Hello, today I will show you how to create an advanced form. I am logged into the system and I'm in the mockup design view. I assume you have seen the My First Form presentation, and based on it I will show you additional features. Right now I am adding a select field to the form. The select field can contain dictionary values or point to the values of another object. For example, the user form contains hair colors. And we can define them the following way: white, gray, black, blonde. And you will see that after generating the prototype, we'll be able to choose between them. We can also refer to the dynamic dictionary by choosing the type of information in the select field. For example, we say that our dictionary is called color and its value is name, and we save it that way, so color.name. We separate the objects and their properties with a dot sign. Look, I have created an additional form to save the data about colors. Additionally, I will change the text field to a select field to choose the color from the dictionary. We can also create more complex relations and structures. For example, we have an order form, and we want to select the user's address. If the form is called order, then the select field should refer to the user and then to their address. For that purpose, the field's codename will be user.address, and the data field will be called address.street. Let's get back to our example from the last presentation, where I will describe how to use select step by step. We have three forms. I will add a select field called country to one of them that downloads a dictionary value, the name field from the country dictionary. I will also add an event that will refresh the list of users after saving the form. After selecting our field, on the right side of the panel, an additional data button will appear, which lets you add a static or dynamic value. Our select field corresponds to the country. We can manually input countries to choose from, or download them from another mockup. On the right side, we click the Data button, and a window will pop up. In the window, you can select the data source and enter the object and field name separated with a dot. We can source the data from another mockup, or we can enter the data manually. To get the values from a different list that is on a different mockup, we choose the source field option. And in the empty field, we type in the name of the list and name of the field. So in this case, it will be the country list and the field name that corresponds to the country name. If we don't want to create a connection with a different mockup and the list it contains, we choose the List of Value Select option, and we enter the country names, for example, the USA, Germany, Great Britain. If we decide that our select field has the correct values in the data configuration, we click the OK button, which will add the setting to the select field. To save the changes, you need to save the changes in the mockup by clicking Save. I will use the source field option to dynamically get the country names. That's why I typed in country.name. You have to remember that if you don't separate the object and its attribute, the app will assume, as in the case of regular fields, that the object is the main object of the form, that is the style. To get values from another mockup and list, first we have to create a list or another active component like a form or a graph that will contain those values. Otherwise, we won't be able to input the data unless we do it directly on the database. We will talk about lists and graphs in another presentation. Other fields in the forms work similarly to the select field. We can give them names, like the attributes of the main object, whose name is the name of the form. Or we can refer to another object defined in another form or list. Or by setting its name, we will create it directly. For example, our user has different addresses. So, for instance, we can put a text field on the form and call it address street. Notice how this works. After saving, a user and an address object is created and they are linked. Now let's work on setting the validation, default values, the field's content length, and field type. After selecting the text field, like the name, on the right side in the Properties panel, some additional parameters for us to set will appear. In the input parameters, we can change the field's length. We can choose to disable the field, so that after generating the prototype, it'll be inactive and you won't be able to input data into it. We can enter a default value for the field. It can be the field's name or an example value so that the user knows what it means exactly and what data they should enter into the form. You have to remember that for the other field types, the input parameters can be different. For example, the select field won't have a default value, but it will have a multi option, which will turn a regular select field into a multi-select field. The next parameters are the validators. Here we can set the field type, choose if it's required, and a minimum and maximum value for a given type. For a text field, that'll be the maximum and minimum length, and for an integer or a real field, it'll be a minimum or maximum value. For the name and surname fields, we will set the minimum length to 3 characters. For the age field, the value will be 18 and the maximum will be 85. The filters parameter is only for the text and memo fields. You can use it to select the all noun option, which forces you to input only alphanumeric characters. Now we will create an event for our submit button that saves and refreshes the whole data list. To do that, we click the lightning bolt button on our submit button, which will open a window. Creating events is covered in another presentation. So here we add a new event with appropriate actions and we click OK. Now we will go to the generated prototype to show you that saving the data to the list and the field validation actually works. First, I will add the hair colors that I mentioned before, blonde and brown. As you can see, after saving the values, they are on the list. As you can see, after saving the values, they are on the list. The validation works correctly, because as you will see, I will enter fewer than 3 characters into the name and surname fields and it won't let me save the form. The same goes for the age field. It won't allow me to submit the age of 17 or 86. Our country is correctly downloaded from the list that contains the list of countries. I will also show you how the field that displays the data works. The field is called Show Data. I will put the field in a row instead of a regular field on a list that displays the data. I will rework the field that is related to the address. You can put the Show Data field on a form or a list. I generate the prototype again. And as you can see, the Show Data field displays the value. Now I will add a checkbox and a radio button to the form. Now I will generate the prototype again and I will show you the values from the checkbox and the radio button. A selected checkbox will have a value of 1 and an unchecked one will be 0. A selected radio button will provide a value the same as the label name. I think that's it for now. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next presentations.